Welcome to Living in the Word. This is going to be part 3 of enjoying your youth as a Christian. And we are going to be talking about how to approach dating as a Christian.
How do you date as a young Christian?
Don't.
I don't know.
No, I'm just kidding.
I wouldn't know. Oh, Lord have mercy in the morning.
That's a tough one.
That's a tough one.
I don't know. Honestly,
It's hard to know where to start with this one.
So,
I'm not going to talk because I don't know about that life.
I mean, I don't know much about it either, but one of those things. It's just kind of like I look at it this way, and it's kind of how I went through high school. I actually wasn't worried about dating. It wasn't a thing that I was looking at. I wasn't. I was sports focused. That's it. So I didn't actually start dating until the end of my senior year of high school, and it just wasn't, like I said. Even then, it wasn't even a big thing. It was a 4-month relationship at most. But honestly, even as a young Christian, dating in general is hard.
Especially these days.
Exactly. There's so
Yeah.
much going on. There's so much that it just, dating is hard in general. And as a Christian, I do believe it is harder because, I talked to you last week.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things about finding somebody, dating somebody is, are you equally yoked? That's the biggest thing, because if you're a Christian, they're not a Christian. That's already it's already a teeter
And
totter.
don't act like you can save them. That's
yes.
that shouldn't be your goal.
That is not that is not the goal.
Tormented. Terrible.
But that's one of the things you got to look at, especially as a Christian, is okay, not necessarily judging their walk, but hey, do you have a relationship with God? Is kind of the
baseline, the foundation.
Yeah, because you want to build that relationship on that. Because in my mind, I feel you should be dating as a sense of, this is who God has for you.
Period.
Yep.
And not just dating to be dating as if, as everything is happening. Yeah. Like, the world has gotten to the point where people are not getting married. They just want to date, and they just want to date any and everybody. And that's just not how God set everything up to be. And, he's created one person for everybody. And everybody, he, like you said, man should not be alone. But at the same time, you gotta look at who it is. Like, you gotta pray about it. That's one of the biggest things. Now, looking back at what I've been through in my dating life, there are things that, I look at now that is, I've changed my thoughts of how I go about dating. And retrospect, I really haven't thought much about the dating aspect of things anyways, because why? I am trying to get my life back right with God 100%, because I did drift away. And that's one thing that you got to watch out. Like I said, being unequally yoked, you can get, it is very, I'm not going to say dangerous, but it's a slippery slope. Yeah, it's a slippery slope, because if you're with somebody who is not a Christian, and let's just say they're not even thinking about God, not even wanting to accept God, then that right there could easily pull you away from him, and that can take your walk away from them. But it's just, dating, like I said, dating is just hard. And, like I said, I'm one of the ones who I firmly believe, hey, I'm not saying don't date, but pray about it before any decision is made. Because that is one of the hardest, out of everything that's going to get thrown at you, temptation-wise, anything in your life, dating to me seems like one of the hardest thrown balls that the devil can throw at you, because he's throwing, it's people, and I don't know. It's something about people
Yep.
that just get us to change our minds and to do this and do that. That, you know, so to me, dating it's, I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying don't do it, but before, pray
You
about
can
it.
wait.
Exactly. Yeah. Pray about it. And I would say, from my experience, listen to your parents.
Yeah.
Your parents, you know, especially if your parents are Christians
If
and
your
have a
parents
great
say,
walk.
yep.
Yeah.
Your parents know.
And they've been married for 50 million thousand years.
Exactly.
They know what they're doing.
Your parents, they know, you know, because, and the other thing is, they can see the outside of that relationship anyways. Even before you start dating, if you start just talking to somebody, if you have that relationship with your parents where you talk to them about this stuff, your parents will be able to see the outside forces or the outside things happening, and they can give you that warning. You won't see it because why?
You're biased.
When you're
yeah.
you're in it,
Yep.
you know, like what we talk about? Red flags. You don't see red flags at all. When
Like you think you would.
But
It's like, I know what I'm looking for, and I know what the red flags are that I don't want to.
you're too busy trying to woo
Right.
and do all this
Exactly.
stuff, right?
Trying to be
You're trying to stay. You're trying to be with this person, so you're not even focused on that. All of those red flags go out the window. But I will also say that's where having a circle of friends or a circle of people that are in the Word, that you could pray with, that you could talk to, you know, having that circle of friends, you know, it can help. And so it's just,
This wasn't even one of the things I was going to say, but yeah, that's so important. Like, listen, especially if you have Christian friends or Christian parents, like, listen to the people around you. Like, I'm not going to say nobody by name, but there is somebody I knew who almost every single person in their life was telling them, this person is not for you. And when every single person in your life is telling you that someone is not for you, maybe it is, you know, you never know, but there's a good chance that it maybe is not, you know, like people have, like you said, when you're in something, you're very biased. And when your emotions and everything start to get involved, right? Like it muddies the waters, and people on the outside can see things a lot more clearly than you can. So heed the advice of the people around you.
Yeah. For me, I've never dated before, but always, even since I was young, I'm like, my end goal is marriage. I'm not trying to date and, you know, get to know you and test the waters. I'm trying to get married, you know? So I think even too, that, like you said, it's the world, their view of love is skewed. It's a lot easier, like the big ticket item, sex. It's a lot easier for them to connect on. My best friend, she talks about this a lot. She says that it's a lot easier for people who are in the world, and even some that are saved, to connect on the base level of sex, but they have no connection with each other outside of that. So that's why you see people not staying married when they get married, or not getting married at all, you know, just out here willy-nilly, you know? So I think even too, when you don't have that foundation in Christ, when you're dating, you're just dating aimlessly. You know, there's no goal, there's no purpose in what you're doing. You know, I think as a Christian man and woman, your goal should be your ministry partner, someone you can do ministry with, and even being unequally yoked. I think about God blocked me from getting into a relationship with someone who I'm gonna get him. I'm getting it, you know, but because he was not a believer, it was one of those things where I know some people, they would be drawn away from God, but my issue is God told me straight up, I was praying, I was like, God, why couldn't I? He was like, because you would have been lonely. We want someone to pray with. He's not doing it.
People think being with somebody doesn't mean you'll be lonely.
Doesn't be like literally like you have that, but especially if you're a Christian and you're with somebody, say this person is a Muslim, they don't even believe in the same God you do. So you want to pray to Jesus, but they're like, no, I'm not praying to somebody who's just a prophet. And what they believe. You know what I'm saying? So that's a disconnect, and you begin to that's a loneliness, that's a void, because you obviously want your husband or your wife to pray with you. You want them to intercede with you. You want them to worship with you, and you don't have that when you're unequally yoked. You know what I'm saying? So I just really believe that, especially for young people that are fresh in God, or even, you know, they've been in God for a little while, I do not enter into a relationship unequally yoked or without the foundation being God, period. And you can enter, and sometimes we get so wrapped up in each other that then God becomes you put him on the back burner, and then you wonder why, like, you know, your relationship is where it is, because you've forgotten about God. At the end of the day, God has to be the center of every relationship. I even think with friends, you know, he has to be the center of your relationship, marriage, whatever, you know.
See, that goes along the lines of when dating, like I said, now I look at, you know, is this person somebody that, you know, we need our own personal prayer time and own personal relationship with God. But now when it comes to the dating side of things, is this person somebody that we can have a prayer time with God? Yes. We can have our time, you know, Bible study time. And then, you know, if that, you know, that's another thing to look at. And it's just one of those things. It's like, if I don't see that, and I'm not saying the person isn't a Christian, but if I don't see, you know, like I said, your walks can be at different levels, but at the same, that can hinder things as well. And if I don't see the fact that, yes, we can have this time, it's just one of those things. Is like, now looking at, you know, what I've been through and everything that, you know, it's just one of those things. Is like, okay, can we have that time? And so I've also gotten to the place too with dating, like, hey, God will drop that person in my life when that time is right.
Thank you, Father.
And so, you know, the whole, you know, a lot of people go out looking for this person. And when you go looking, that right there is where you get caught up in, you know, what some call situationships, entanglements and stuff like that. And it's like that right there, even those, you know, it's hard. And so it's like, you know, don't go looking. Let God
bring he's gonna find me anyway. So
exactly, God has somebody already made for you. So when you go looking, you're just hindering. Like,
you gonna find something.
You'll find something. Yeah, like you could be what, 25 and in a relationship with somebody, and you're trying to hold on to this relationship that's not even the relationship God has for you.
Come on.
And end up missing that one person that he has for you. Or, you know, you're stuck in that so long that now you've gotten to a place where God, yes, has that person, and he will always bring that person into your life if you're following him. But what could have been, let's say 28 years old, you married to this person and y'all having this life that God already had planned for you. Now you may be 35, 40 years old, and it's like, okay, now it's coming back around, but you went through all of this struggle, all of this hard time.
Got baggage now.
Exactly. For no reason whatsoever. And that's where, you know, like I said, don't go looking for somebody. And that's a big thing that is happening now, is people have a piece of themselves missing, or at least they feel like they have a piece missing, and they go looking for that piece in somebody else. And that is not, I cannot stress, that is not what you need to do. Don't go, like I said, don't try to fill a void with somebody.
Woo. Come on, I'm about to burst. You better
preach. So yeah, don't fill the void with somebody, you know, fill that void, pray. Read your Bible.
Man, I knew people like, you know those people in high school who they were never single.
Oh, Jesus.
Ever.
Oh,
as
yeah.
soon as they break up with somebody, now they're with somebody else, right?
Yes.
Like they can never even just be with themselves. Like that's a issue.
That's a hard
you know?
issue.
That's an issue. And I think what you said is really good, because especially when it comes to like looking for people, because I think that even as a Christian, you could be praying and saying, you know, God, you know, like I'm waiting, I'm trying to wait for that person that you have for me and stuff like that. But I want to urge, don't get impatient and then take things in your own hands.
Come on.
Because you can feel like God's not answering your prayer, and then you're like, okay, God, you know what? It doesn't seem like you're doing it, so
I'm gonna pull a Sarah.
I'm just gonna do it, right? And
I could attest for that one.
Yep. And you just you act out of desperation and say like,
Ooh,
it'll never happen if I don't do something, you know? Because I know me, like I'm a very proactive person. I don't like to sit on my hands. I don't like to feel like things are out of my control. So as soon as like something is open and like ready for, like, I'm like, no, I need to do something. Like that's how I think. That's how I am. That's how my natural behavior is. And so I had to really take a step back and start to be like, you know, if I'm really trusting God with this, then I won't need to do anything, because if I'm doing something, it means that I'm not trusting God with it, you know? So I think we have to be very intentional about how we approach dating and relationships and stuff, and say, God, I'm trusting you. I'm not going to get impatient. I'm not going to jump the gun. I'm not going to do whatever I want. I'm not going to say, you're not doing it, I'm just going to do it for me. I have to fully trust you with this. Oh, Lord. Verse. Oh, Jesus.
That's all of that. But yeah,
what she said.
Yeah. It's you know, that's one of those things. Yeah, I did that. Like I literally had that feeling at one point where it's like, okay, like I said, I wasn't looking to date in high school, but it's always that, you know, that peer pressure and those people coming and talking to you, man, you haven't talked to anybody,
Social
haven't seen you date.
pressure, yeah.
And it's one of those things like, okay, now you got my mind messed up, and
Thinking there's something wrong
with me.
Yeah, there's something that what am I doing wrong? And in reality, there's nothing that you're doing wrong other than trying to play God for yourself. And that is, you know, like I said, from my experience, I that was me. I went looking. Now, was there a void that I had? No, because I can look back on it and say I was perfectly fine. But it's just all those people in your ear talking and conversations and this and that and the other. And that warped my mind and my thinking into being like, okay, oh yeah, the next person, this is what's happening, versus, like I said, listening to those red flags and those people talking to you about this. I've had those people telling me these things like, no, don't do this, or take it slow, or pray about it first. And like I said, being in it, it's just one of those things. It's hard to do that because you're trying to control your own life. And that's just one thing that I know I'm not doing anymore. And it never, when you try and take control, it never works out how you planned it. And the minute you get back in sync with God, you understand, and he opens your eyes and shows you what those issues were and what those problems were. And for me, after my divorce, that was one of the things, you know, I would just have times where I'm sitting in my apartment and just in silence, no TV, no phone, no nothing, just in silence. And that's when I started seeing different things that, okay, I should have known that this relationship wasn't right from this moment. Or if I missed that moment, okay, here's another moment, and here's another moment, and here's another moment. And after seeing countless moments of
hindsight is 2020. It's okay.
After seeing those countless moments, it's like one of those things is like, okay, I'm going to trust you. I'm not worried about it now. I'm not looking for anything. When you drop it in front of me, when you tell me this is that person, okay, yes. I'm not trying to control things. And it's just one of those things like, you know, dating is hard, but as you get older, you get wiser, and you start seeing what you should have done, and you start trusting God more.
That silence piece is so important. I'll never forget. I went to a ladies' conference one time here, and I can't remember who was giving the presentation, but she said she was talking about what she does on certain days, and she was like y'all, Thursdays I just think. That always stuck with me because just being like quiet for a moment and being like reflective and self-evaluative about your own life, it just opens your mind to so many things. Because like Marcus was talking about, like social pressure, the world is so loud, right? It's so loud. You hear things on TV, your friends talk, you're on social media, like people are yelling and screaming all different kinds of things, especially about dating, right? That's probably like the biggest thing.
Everybody's
and
an
you
expert.
hear all of these constructs that the world has come up with about talking and casual dating and being non-committal and LGBT and poly relationship, all kinds of stuff, right? And it's so loud. And if you're not taking a moment to step back and be silent and listen to God and read your word and really get a sense of what a godly relationship looks like and how we should go about things and how marriage is supposed to be and what God says about all of these things, then it's so easy for all of that stuff, all of that junk to just start to become, start to develop that same mindset. So like we have to be intentional about, I'm going to get in my word. I'm going to take time to turn everything off and just listen and just be reflective and right.
What you said even about being impatient, that I think that's another piece too, where we can allow the world to, if you're not married by the age of, if you don't have kids by the age of, and then you weren't even thinking about it, but because you keep seeing, you're like, oh, is something wrong? Aren't I supposed to be? Or you even see your friends who are your friends' family who are younger than you, and you're like, they're married, they have kids, they got all, and it's like we're looking at how God allowed their life to go.
You feel like you're behind.
We feel like we're behind,
Yeah.
and it's like we have
to catch up.
Yes,
yeah.
We have to. There's a scripture in the Bible that says godly contentment is of great gain. So we have to be content with where God has us right now, and then be happy for and expectant for what He's got for us in the future. So I think that piece about is being content, because a lot of the time we're not content, and that's why we find ourselves getting into situations that we're not supposed to be in, because we feel like God has withheld something, and He said He would never withhold any good thing. I think even too when you brought up how there are people in the world, Christian or not, how they've got missing pieces, and they go and try to find other people to fill those pieces up with. I think even I'm just gonna be honest, like I'm gonna say it. They go and try to fill that piece up with sex, and they're empty. They don't know what to do, but they think that this is the only way. This is all they know how to do. And it's like, really, that's the reason why there's this empty piece is because God's not there. And there's a soul. There's an ungodly soul tie. That's why there's a missing piece, because God's not feeling it. So feeling F-I-L-L, not F-E-E, but he's not there, So I really just think that that's really all it goes back to. We can circle this entire conversation back to a foundation on God.
Oh yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Yep. That's the important thing is, with everything going on in the world, having that strong foundation with God and having that strong relationship with God is always going to be, that's going to be the biggest thing you need. Yep. If you, like I said, it doesn't matter. There's going to be times that, trouble's going to come, hard times are going to come. But if you have that foundation on God, you're always going to make it through. He's not, they always say, he doesn't give you more than you can handle. And my biggest thing, one of my favorite scriptures that I stand on all the time is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through God who strengthens me. And going through my divorce, that was one of the biggest things that I kept reminding myself is that, I can get through this. I can get it. let me get back in the word. Let me pray. Because I will say, yes, there was times where I was at church events, but in all honesty, God was kind of the last thing on my mind.
Not really there, yeah.
And it's, and that's where certain relationships, even with friends and even family members, some of those relationships are, hindering to you, because if you're focused more on the relationship, then there's no, you're, like you said, you can't serve two masters. That's kind of the, relationship, God, which one are you focused the most on? And I will always say, if you focus more on God, the relationship will come. And it's, that's the balance. You focus on
hole
God.
You're talking about earlier, if you allow God to fill that hole, then you don't feel like you need to get anything from anyone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed this 3-part series of Enjoying Your Youth as a Christian. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when we drop a new video.